August 31st, 2021. Let's start with the curfew hours. Effective Wednesday, August 11th, the curfew hours will be adjusted as follows. On Mondays to Fridays, the curfew hours will be from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. the following morning. On Saturdays, the curfew hours will be from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. on the Sunday morning. On Sundays, the curfew hours will be from 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Monday morning. Closing hours for establishments will generally be 1 hour before curfew begins. And I want to just pause there a little bit. The strategy of the government, you will realize, is to gradually ease in the tighter measures. For various reasons, we have analyzed how we have implemented measures in the past, and we would have heard the concerns, criticisms, and suggestions of our stakeholders who have said that the implementation of tighter measures steeply sometimes causes congestion and panic. So we have moved the curfew hours down gradually. This is both a signal and opportunity to our stakeholders, business people, transportation operators, citizens moving around, that those who need to rearrange their business hours, who need to stock, purchase items, schedule appointments, that they get enough notice period, and so they are in the frame of mind to receive the tighter measure. So we have gradually eased them in over a 4-week period. So we are now back to where we were in terms of measures in early May, thereabouts, when we were at a 7 o'clock curfew. We have not yet implemented a no movement day. A no movement day, however, is possible. And in fact, no movement days, if the numbers do not show signs of improving, will probably come, give it 2 weeks from now. So we are gradually easing in the tighter measures so that people can prepare and have enough time to adjust their scheduling and so forth. So the tighter measures are being implemented, and I'm saying to Jamaicans to be in an expecting mode that even tighter measures could come depending on the numbers that we're seeing. We're always conscious that at the same time we're trying to control the pandemic, we don't want the collapse of our economy. And so that's the balancing game that we have to be playing. Beaches, which are not under management or control, are to be closed. The beaches that remain open will operate under the existing protocols and subject to tighter operating hours as follows. Mondays to Saturday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and on Sunday, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Rivers will be restricted to be used only for domestic purposes and for river rafting in accordance with the established protocols. The operating hours will remain the same as for beaches. Places of worship will be restricted to having no more than 50 persons in physical attendance, including clergy and support personnel. No crusades, conferences, or conventions will be permitted. Just to be clear on this, that the 50-person limit is still subject to the physical distance rule. So if your church, in applying the 1 to 40 square feet rule as a physical distancing rule, can only accommodate 30 persons, then 30 is your limit. If your church, in applying the physical distance rule, could accommodate 200 persons, 50 is your limit. I just want that to be clear. Now, nightclubs and certain places of amusement, such as clubs and discotheques, do we still have discotheques? Are to be closed. Events, no small or large events, for example, concerts, parties, tailgate parties, round robins, will be permitted. During this period, events, as I have described, will be strictly prohibited. Let me say that in terms that everyone can understand. No permits will be given for any events, and all events which are kept illegally will be closed by the police. As I've said, I met with the Commissioner of Police last night, 3 hours, going through a variety of things, and one of them is the strict enforcement of these measures. All the measures that we have put in place here will be strictly enforced. And I want that to be clearly understood. Gyms, restaurants, zoos, parks, and bars are to operate at a maximum of 50% of their capacity. Capacity is determined, as I've said before, on the physical distance rule, 1 person to every 40 square feet of usable space for the area. For weddings, no more than 50 persons will be permitted to physically attend a wedding. For annual and extraordinary general meetings of entities, the maximum number of persons permitted to attend physically is 50. For public events and hosted by public entities, such as handing over ceremonies, launches, groundbreakings, opening ceremonies, things that I would normally do, no more than 30 persons are permitted to be in physical attendance. As a reminder, the limit of 30 persons remains in place for funeral services and burials. This includes mourners as well as clergy and any support personnel. Burial can be done only on Mondays to Fridays during the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the time for conducting the burial continues to be limited to 30 minutes. Our travel protocols remain the same. All persons are therefore required to present a negative test within 3 days prior to their travel date. The list of countries from which travel to Jamaica is not allowed remain the same, namely Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, India, Paraguay, Peru, and Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is working with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to work out arrangements to facilitate the entry of university students from Trinidad and Tobago who are pursuing studies in Jamaica. We are now clearly seeing our third wave. Our focus in crafting the measures that will apply over the next 3 weeks has been on controlling spread sufficiently to allow us to reopen schools to facilitate structured face-to-face learning in September. As it stands now, this goal is severely challenged. We're still hopeful that we would be able to have some form of reopening. We had targeted mid-September. But it really depends on what we as Jamaicans do in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It really depends on what we do. And there are a couple of things that we know works. The wearing of masks. There is a sense of complacency. Now, the complacency applies to persons who know better, but just don't do it.
You have been listening to Prime Minister Andrew Holness at the Office of the Prime Minister giving the latest update on COVID-19. If you're just joining, if you missed out, he announced some changes. And so the first one will be the curfew, and this will be for 3 weeks, August 11, that's Wednesday coming, to August 31. So as of Wednesday, Monday to Friday, the curfew begins at 7 p.m., ends at 5 a.m. That's Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. On Saturdays, it will be at 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. And on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. That means that closing hours for businesses will be 1 hour before the curfew begins. He emphasized that this was being gradually done. The different changes were being gradually done, or easing the country into them. The Prime Minister said that they had not yet implemented a no movement day, but this is still possible, and the numbers will be watched over the next 2 weeks. But at this point, no movement days, but it's possible that there could be no movement days in the coming weeks, depending, of course, on the COVID numbers. As it relates to beaches, those not under management or control, they should be closed. And for others, tied to operation, Monday to Saturday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sundays, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Rivers should be restricted only for domestic purposes. And the beach hours, or the river hours, or operating hours, will be as for beaches. In regards to places of worship, no more than 50 persons. And he did emphasize that the physical distance rule must be applied. So in a situation where physical distance means that you can only have fewer than 50 persons, then that should be the case. And if you're have a larger building, still no more than 50 persons. Nightclubs and certain places of amusement will be closed. He said no small or large event will be held. They will be strictly prohibited. No permit will be given for any event. And if an event takes place, the police will be called on to shut it down. Gyms, restaurants, zoos, parks and bars, 50% of capacity. Weddings, no more than 50 persons. For annual general meetings, physically present, 50 persons. Public events such as handing over ceremonies, launches, groundbreaking, 30 people can be physically in attendance. 30 people also for funeral and burials, Monday to Friday, and of course it's still limited to 30 minutes. Travel protocols remain the same. You need a negative test 3 days prior to travel. And so he said too that the country was clearly seeing a third wave. He did say towards the end that he will be going on the road, read the vaccination program, the same way they went out and sought votes prior to the election. They'll be going out and encouraging persons to take the vaccine. And he says that he's also looking forward to support of all Jamaicans so schools can be reopened for September. So those are the latest measures